that life's not fair.
Mm.
Life is wickedly not fair. And so it's your job to be able to work with that.
Mm.
Where someone might get something, or they might get a job, or they might get a promotion, or they might have an extra opportunity than you do.
Okay.
That's life.
Yeah.
My definition of meaningful life um, has kind of changed since high school. Right now, as I see it, it's one where I'm able to use my gifts and talents to help others.
Mm.
We are given these abilities. Everyone uniquely has something that they're good at. We might not know it now, but in 20 years, it might show up. And then are you willing to use that gift to help others in some way, shape, or form? I don't know. I don't know how I keep it.
Just sticks
It's
with
just
you.
you choose to keep going, right? Most people experience burnout in one way, shape, or form,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to keep moving past that or taking some time off. So, managing burnout is how I keep my passion, I guess.
Okay.
What would it be? Actually, there's two. One is be courageous to stand up for others. There were moments in school where I felt like looking back, I should have stood up for someone who might have needed standing up for, out of fear of being persecuted or made fun of or worried about what other people might think of me. I probably should have just done the right thing.
Mm.
Knowing 20 years ago, no one cares. No one's going to remember that, and if they do, then at least it would have been for doing the right thing.
Right.
Two, invest in Apple, Amazon, and Microsoft. Invest. If you can set money aside to start a retirement plan at 18, $25 a month from whatever job you're working, do it because it's going to pay off. So seniors, find a financial investor early on, even if it's $10 or $20 a month, whatever you can afford, do it.
Mm.
Um, Again, kind of a two-part thing. One, understanding my purpose. It took a long time for me to figure out what my purpose was. I wanted to be a physical therapist, and I worked from high school 10 years trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I couldn't get into physical therapy school. I'd done all these physical therapy hours. I'd done athletic training hours, observing and job shadowing, and I couldn't get into PT school. And it was only when I asked myself, what what am I good at? Not skill wise, but just naturally. It was listening. And then I went to counseling school. And it was about 30 years old before I really understood what my purpose was, what my gift was. So that's been joyous. And then obviously being with my family. Um, they're awesome and they're funny and we laugh a lot. We play games. There's good times and bad times, but through it all, they're the people that when I walk in the door, um, they smile when they see me.
Mm.
Well, I think understanding the basic principle of faith is understanding, working to understand what you can't see,
Mm.
and understanding that if we submit ourselves and resign ourselves to knowing we can't do it all, that there's a higher purpose, God, higher power, whatever we want to call it. I know what I call it, but there is a spiritual aspect to purpose and meaning in living, whether you believe it or not now, but there is. And so when I approach this idea of wellness of a person, it's physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And oftentimes that spiritual part gets left out. So my relationship with God everything. That defines my purpose. And so I guess that would play a large role in how I view life, how I view people. If I view people as created as special and unique, the way I approach people is going to be different.
Less prone to judgment.
Yeah. Whether I agree with them or not, there's still this level of empathy and care because they are created by the Creator. You pray and you keep moving forward.
Like that.
we have no choice, right? As much as we want to think the world really cares about us, there might be certain people that care about us. But the world doesn't care about you. The world is going to move on regardless. So this is where you have to trust that we're going to make the right decisions, that there's a plan for us, and you keep moving forward in whatever direction you're doing. There's been plenty of times where I've felt down and out, and I go, okay, let's do this. But we have to keep moving, because if we sit still for too long, then we become stagnant.
And that's worse than
not doing anything. Now, there's a lot of things that go into that being stagnant or just staying in neutral. Could be fear, most likely fear, from the counselor perspective.
Right.
Fear of failure, fear of what other people are going to say. You name it. It's probably a fear that's holding you back. But we just got to keep persisting. Keep moving forward. Fear of what other people are going to think, and fear of failure. Fear of failure is a huge one that I see, not only my time here, but my counseling outside of here. And that's across the board. We're talking kids, we're talking teens, adults, elderly. The oldest person I've seen is at the time was 88 years old. And it was a fear of failing her kids and her grandkids. You wouldn't think that. So that's persistent across the board, where if we think we're going to fail, we have a hard time with that. And so it's getting comfortable failing. It's being okay with failing and recognize that just because we fail something doesn't mean we're a failure. Those are two different things. And when we look at like the stock market might have a really bad day. And if we take a 1 day glimpse of what's happened, you're like, I'm not invested in that. I'm not buying in that. Look at how much it's gone down. And yet, if we look at the course of 80 years, it's gone up 10 million% or whatever. And so we have to understand that just because we fail something doesn't mean we're a failure. And that holds people back. That seems to be a big fear.
Okay. Fear.
I think it's understanding that there are some things we are okay defending. And there are some things that we don't care if people judge us for. I love baseball. There are a lot of people that do not like baseball. And that's okay. But if they want to judge me because I like baseball, then let them do it. Especially being a Red Sox fan. I get a lot of hate. And so I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter. Whereas there might be a topic that's the root is an insecurity of some sort. Maybe the way I look, or the way I talk, the way I laugh, something along those lines, where if it becomes vulnerable and we already think we're bad at it, or we already think that our hair doesn't look good, or we already think that our voice sounds wonky, we're going to be more prone to hide those things. So we can fight judgment. It depends on how well we can fight our own insecurities. knowing and understanding that you are loved by at least one person can build confidence. We talked about confidence. Knowing you have that support unconditionally unlocks so many benefits. And it allows you to, knowing that they're behind you and they care for you, regardless of what failures happen, they allow you to be the best person you can be. And that's really important because relationships are not about what they can do for you, it's what you can do for them. It is not always going to be 50-50. It rarely is 50-50. There are times where we have to be the person carrying the load. There are times where we have to submit and rest in the fact that we're doing this because we care about the other person. And there are some days where I have to pull more of the load, and there are days where Mrs. Austin has to do her fair share of the load for whatever reason. But it's this give and take, and it's this understanding that we are there to serve. We are there to be the hands and feet for them when they can't. That's the important thing about connection and building relationships.
Not only romantic relationships, but also friendships, rapport.
Friendships, yeah.
Boss and employee.
Yeah, because there may be days where you're like, well, my friend hasn't reached out. They don't seem to care about me. Well, maybe they have things going on. Maybe they aren't your friend. I don't know. The purpose of being a friend is to serve and to give. It's not always what you can get out of it. Relationships, 3 things. 1, do what you say you are going to do. You say you're going to go to the store, you better well go to the store. If you say that you're going to take care of a situation, you better make sure that you take care of those things. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. 2, learn to forgive. People are always going to hurt you. You're always going to be offended by something that someone does. Learn to forgive. And 3, be honest, but do it in a way that's kind. I said earlier, make sure that what we're saying is beneficial for the other person to hear. Always. If it's not going to benefit them, then you need to keep your mouth shut. Because there are going to be heated moments where we say things and it's going to tear someone else down, especially someone we love. Humility. Be willing to admit your faults when you have to admit them. Because when we trust someone, when we love someone, we have to be able to say I'm sorry when we need to say I'm sorry. And then 2, laugh a lot. Have the inside jokes. I hope, to my wife, I hope I'm the funniest person on the face of the earth. That's what I hope. If we laugh, then we're going to be able to make it through. It's when the laughing stops, that's when life becomes way too serious.